All right, Anaya Sophia, you're here. You
Hello,
Hi, you
I'm
found
here.
your way, my dear friend.
Yes,
Hello.
at 2 minutes, 2 minutes to midnight, I finally step in.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a sacred time. What a perfect time for this.
Yeah,
Well, welcome.
thank
And
you.
yes, and right before we jump in, I just want you to know if you have the time, there is a 15-minute break after your talk, so we can keep talking for a little ways into that. So maybe that was set up just right. So
Okay.
yeah. Hi. So will you introduce yourself to these lovely people, please?
Okay. Hello, beloved friends. My name's Anaya Sophia. I am sitting upon French soil right now. I'm in the French Pyrenees. I'm a Brit. I'm half English, half Irish. Um, Kind of approaching the over the hill phase. I'm definitely in the later phase of life, which is bringing in some tremendous new material. And I felt today I would love to speak to you about my experiences with the Dark Mother and how what we're all going through right now on the planet is looking very much to me like her good hand at the helm, bringing this situation on. So if you want, I can go straight into it, Christina.
Yes, please do. I would love it. Thank you. I feel like this is the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, what I thought I would do is just sort of start speaking and start bringing this energy through, but I'd very much like to leave you with a sacred practice that I'm doing and that I feel would be hugely beneficial and very, very stabilizing for us at this time. So here I am in France, 1 week behind Italy and probably 2 weeks in front. No, behind you. So we're all having this beautiful knock on phase, which is frightening, but by golly, we're already noticing surely it's bringing us all together. Now, the hallmarks of the Dark Mother is to bring us to a 2 minutes to midnight situation where it will look very, very believable that we are on the brink of losing our existence or as well as full annihilation. This agent of rebirth is to bring this to us because she sees a greater light within us. It's not to harm, it's not to punish, it's not to cull, it's not to get rid of a certain amount of humans. It's not because the Amazon was on fire and Australia was on fire. So it's not a tit for tat. It is simply, in my words, it is a correction. A correction across the world is happening. When we come into contact with her, it can feel like, because that is what's happening, things are being taken away. We are being stripped. We are being isolated. We are being backed into a corner. And everything that we can possibly imagine is rising up. It's like someone is squeezing the bottom of the toothpaste and it's coming out of us. And that is her hallmarks. One thing I have noticed about this COVID-19 is how it strikes at the lungs. Now, being a yogi, I can't help but notice that and pay a lot of attention because I'm also asthmatic. So it's a condition that I've been with my whole life. And I know what it is. It's grief. there is a part of me that I always say, oh, it's my Irish side. I love melancholy. Oh, I just love going there. I love to feel the agony of life. I love to feel the suffering. Mine, my relationship, the collective. I'm really not fussed. There are just days when that is needed. So I'm quite adept and comfortable at going into grief and sorrow states, which always brings tremendous relief to my breathing. I'm wondering this time that we are in quarantine, that should obvious grief be arising, it would be extremely wise to let that truly surface and truly be felt in a really bodily shaking all the way down to the ground type way. If you're staying busy and don't really want to look in, I suggest you might change that tactic and allow the looking in and feeling around approach to deepen. We have been told that we're in quarantine for 15 days. No, we're not in quarantine for 15 days. We will most likely, all of us probably, us in Europe, be in quarantine for the whole of the summer. And for you guys in the States, that could be all the way to September. That is probably a more realistic way of settling in for the marathon rather than the sprint. You could say that that is the first wave of the Dark Mother. The isolation, the fear of running out of food, the fear of losing our jobs and losing our jobs, the fear of money, the fear of what kind of world are we going to emerge and step back into. But I can't help feeling that there's many levels, but there's another really obvious level starting to show now for me. Probably you guys in the States have been aware of this for a long time. We have been through a few years of seeing one groundbreaking expose after another. It started with the Me Too movement. And then we had the Hollywood film directors. And then we had pedophile rings. And then we had 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 spiritual tantra or yoga teachers, huge big names that have come from India and are really holding, you know, a good 50 plus years of lineage and tradition. I have a feeling there's another one coming up. And this one is going to be in the world of politics and world leaders. So I want to say to us all, buckle up, because the isolation and quarantine is just stage one. Use this time to come into your world leader, your own world leader on the inside, because I have a feeling many countries, governments, and political systems are going to be unearthed and tossed right up into the air. Basically, we're not going to have a daddy figure. So it would be extremely wise to start establishing and grounding and integrating our own sacred masculine pole on the inside, because let's face it, we've had a good 10 years of establishing that sacred feminine within us. I utterly believe in our lifetime, maybe we will really get to see it next year, 2021. We will emerge out of this and into truly the potential of that kind of world that we have been seeing and dreaming about and crying out for and calling out for and praying into manifestation. But it could have some significant changes, i.e., no world leaders, possibly a different kind of economy, and the basic rules of society will be seriously changed. So I believe that is the wider vision of the Dark Mother. It really is true. Everything we have cried out for, this new earth, this new vision, this new world, she's answering the prayer. She is plowing through and turning over everything. Because it goes back to that very first sentence. She sees a greater light within us. And us humans aren't the best at reaching for that greater light when we're nice and shopped and comfortable and satiated. We can be, the earlier lady said it a moment ago, we can be a little bit lazy. So of course pressure's on, turf is being turfed over, ground is shaking. There will be lots of personal grief. At the moment, it hasn't affected me directly yet, but it will. I'm constantly looking over the water at Italy and noticing how it is now directly impacting friends of mine in Italy. That's going to be the same in Spain. Then it's going to be us in France. Then the UK, where my parents are, which is a huge concern for me. And then, unfortunately, across the pond, over to you guys. But when that grief comes, and it will be tremendous, try to remember these words. Because if we lose our mum and dads and our friends, she is there to catch them the very moment they pass. And whenever I speak of the Dark Mother, I'm always also speaking absolutely about Sophia. And one of the greatest visions us mystics share about Sophia, you'll love this one. If you can imagine Saint Peter at the gates, the pearly gates of heaven, with his little checkboard of who can and who cannot enter. Well, there he is with his clipboard and allowing, yes, you got yes, you no, and sorry, you're not on the list. And so, of course, that soul turns away in absolute terror because we've all been conditioned to believe, well, we know where we're going. If we can't go into heaven, well, option number 2 isn't looking so good. And one of the stories of Sophia is that she is noticing everything. She's in the celestial abode, just looking at Peter with his clipboard, loving him completely, and just shaking her head every time he sends a soul away. And what she does is she zooms after that soul and collects that little soul and all others in her mantle, which is an old-fashioned word for dress, and flies them right up, not to the outer reaches of heaven, but to the very central abode where the most pristine Godhead is residing. Peter he's always astonished, and he always turns to the Godhead and says, you gotta do something about Sophia. I've said that this soul can't come in, and she has just brought them not only to heaven, but to your central sanctum. And God, the head, Godhead, male nor female, says, Well, that is the Holy Sophia. And that is the end of the story. So remember that, because I will be remembering that when I start to lose my loved ones. That last breath is the last one on earth and the first one with her. And every bone and cell and everything in my body affirms that is true. So what I'd like to do now is go back a little bit, and I'm going to show you this sacred practice I'm doing. Oh yes, one more thing to mention. I suspect every single person on this call, in this live moment and in the replay, if you tell the truth, you knew that something like this was going to happen in your lifetime. And that is because there is part of us that is born ready. We were birthed for this moment. That's why we have this little secret. I knew something like this was going to happen. Of course you do. You're carrying the code of the great big brand new earth that we are going to create together. But then there's another part of us that's human and has loved ones and is really keen for the food supply chains to stay open and abundant, and did have plans for all that money in the bank, and does have elderly parents, and one of us might be in one country and one in the other. How the heck are we going to get back to one another if there's no transport system? Human concerns. And that is what this practice is going to marry. It's a symbolic journey. So I'm going to take a little step back. Yes, you're going to see my tartan pajamas. So I'm going to take this little microphone with me and all will be well. Let me just tilt this. Okay. What you need is two fabulous pieces of music that absolutely resonate with what I've just said. One part of you, born ready. The other part, I have said the words afraid to die. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but I'm Irish, we say it as it is. And that is. I'm not afraid to die, I'm afraid of, what was the word I used the other day? Well, I can't remember, but it's something like struggling for breath. That absolutely gives me the heebie-jeebies. So imagine now that the right-hand side of your body is the network, is the realm where that part of you lives who is born ready, is also a little bit excited by this moment. A sense of, wow, finally it's here. And you carry the codes. You may not be quite sure yet how to serve that, but you're part of the team to bring through the new earth. So that's the right-hand side of the body, whether you're male or female. The left-hand side of the body is the part that is afraid of struggling for breath, afraid of rationings, afraid of not being able to get back to mum and dad in England, and 101 more things. But this is the symbolic journey. The left-hand side is going to make the first move because it is a sign and an act of saying, I do not need any greater power outside of me. I am going to believe in you. You're born ready. There's half of me that's totally up for and ready for this job. You are going to be my world leader, my world leader. And so for this side of the body, you'd play something that I'd call victorious, uplifting, really like, yes, Here we go. And so in that moment, the left hand would come across the lap. Now this left hand is using the last of her energy, or his energy. She is placing her last bet, if you like. If you think roulette, she's placing her last bet on this part. And with that, she's going to lift this hand up and bring him to, I keep saying him, and bring this one to the midline where you play your victorious music. You show the right hand that you are capable enough, strong enough, patient enough, faithful enough to hold this arm up. You could say that this is the sacred masculine. You are going to lean on this one. You're going to hold on to this one. This is your central pillar. After the length of the song, you bring this one back. You really squeeze his hand as if it was a lover. And then you come up the arm, and with somatic touch, which means wordless, you're not actually saying anything on the inside. There's no sentences. It's just heartfelt touch. You're coming up that arm and you are recognizing moments in your lifetime where you have glimpsed this part of you. And you're saying, I see you. I acknowledge. I appreciate. I trust. I believe in you and your ability to do this. So you're imbuing, you're infusing. You come down, little handhold again, and now you go back to your knee. And now this one rises up, because now it's even more puffed up. It's been seen and recognized. And so this gallant fellow comes along and picks up your really terrified, frightened part. And now you're going to play something truly beautiful and tender. Maybe a little bit of piano, a little bit of ambient. It's your frightened self. And you're picking her up. I'm saying her because that was a him. You're going to bring her to the midline where you're going to whisper things like, sweetheart, let me carry that burden with you. Let me carry those fears with you. I am more than capable of holding every terror you admit to yourselves and also the ones you don't admit. I understand because I hear everything. If you can release or share those fears with me, and you will feel a drop in the left elbow. And you might be having a good old cry. I hope so, because that cry is very, very healing. And for the duration of the song, and then you put this one back, a very personal handhold like a lover. Somatic touch coming up again where you are touching those anxieties, the sleeplessness. You're just putting touch, no sentences. It's non-verbal, or rather pre-verbal. You are really going in deep and touch. You're just putting touch to the kinds of things that haunt your mind during this time. Right up to the back of the ear, and then down and down and down, slow, slow, slow. I'm going quick now. Last lingering little clutch of the hands, and then back to the knee, where you would play a third piece, where you would sit in the actual sacred marriage of these two parts. Now, if you do that every day, you are going to be a different person. And that is really my two penneth for today.
Anaya, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. What a gift to really to have something that we can do that's so sacred for ourselves right now. It's really
Yes,
beautiful.
yeah, I do feel that bodily work is essential. This stuff has to really move through the body.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really hugely significant. You heard the call for this experience because I felt in my heart, you know, us priestesses, us women are wondering, what do I do with myself, with my physical self right now?
Yes.
And you just answered that prayer. So thank you.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Well,
beautiful.
I'm not, that's my half an hour, unless there's
Yeah.
anything else. Oh, what we got here?
You have people loving
Oh,
you.
yeah, bless.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yes. So much
Oh,
love.
bless your hearts.
Mm. Yes. What a profound
Oh,
contribution. Exactly.
I wonder if I could just pop in one more thing.
Please.
Where we live, obviously, Pete and I, we live in a place called Cathar, France. This is the region of the old Cathars. This is going back into medieval times, a group of people that lived a very pure, very holy, but a holiness of the earth rather than a saintly existence. Now, there is a prophecy that becomes fulfilled in 2021. There's that date again. And one of the prophecy is, in 700 years we shall return, when the laurel, that's a tree, a native tree, when the laurel turns green. Now, ever since I've been here, the laurel has been green. So I used to, what? That's weird. It's already green. But 2 years ago, an Asian moth came over in its thousands and nested in the laurel tree and ate it and put its little cocoons in it. And so within a month, all the laurel had turned crispy and brown. They also came last year, but noticeably not as many. Now, if they don't come this summer, the laurel will indeed be green in 2021, which is apparently the time we will really come out of this now, and that new work, we will be creating this new earth together. It might be from the ruins, you know, and like a phoenix rising from the ashes, like, oh, that was the transportation system. Oh, that was the bank. But we will find our way. How can we not?
That's right. Yeah. Oh my goodness, how beautiful and how interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And Alicia Sacred Heart is reminding us that Mary Magdalene is associated with Qatar.
Oh, yes, I missed that
Of
bit. That's really
course.
important.
Of course.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. You could
Yeah.
say the Cathars are the spiritual descendants of Mary and what she was teaching fully, not just
Is
the partial, but the full transmission.
right. And is that why you decided to be there?
Yes,
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
I thought
Yeah.
maybe.
Oh God, absolutely. I must confess,
Oh,
I did come out here innocently. I didn't know anything about how this corner was connected to Mary Magdalene or the Cathars. I came out here a little bit reluctantly, to be honest. But within a few days, I started to hear a few stories, and I'm like, what? And that was that. I'm sold.
this is how it works, right?
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I just moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, here in the States. And I told, my family asked why. I said, because Spirit asked me to. So here I am.
Yeah.
But you learn stories and you hear about the history, and it's like, okay, well, this is where the work gets to be done.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, beautiful sister, for joining us today, for gifting
Thank
us this
you.
time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I was
Yes.
invited to the party.
You are always invited, my dear friend. You're always invited. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.